First on film and entertainment with me, Jackie Hammerton, Peter Krauss. My name's Alex First. Jackie, you and I went to something rather special during the week, the media preview of the latest exhibition at the Lume. It has changed the face of exhibitions, at least in this country, has it not?
Oh, it's just stunning venue, and the exhibitions they put on are as good as we've ever seen anywhere.
I agree. We've both travelled extensively, and notwithstanding what you see in overseas exhibitions, this has changed the face. You know, it's been rather controversial, though, of course, that not everybody likes the fact that there's video incorporated into it. My answer to that is get over it. The whole idea of exhibitions and displays. In fact, I saw the Australian Ballet's production of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland over the last couple of days, and that again changed what's possible in ballet. So where does it say anywhere that you've got to stand still when it comes to exhibitions? The more interactive...
Oh, I haven't heard that it's controversial at all. I mean, certainly... Oh, no.
It is. Purists are saying that this is not the way to do it. That's the reason I'm saying I totally disagree. I think this is incredible. And
it just makes it that much more immersive when you're surrounded by the entire experience and you experience it, with different media.
We should say it's Leonardo da Vinci, 500 years of genius. That's what we're talking about. And for those people who don't know where the Lume is, it's inside the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. So it's going to be on for a few months. And I'll pose this as a starting point. And Peter, you might want to join in terms of creative intellect. Has there been a creative intellect greater than Leonardo da Vinci? Just a question without notice. And I was sort of thinking about big names in terms of that space. Albert Einstein immediately came to mind, Isaac Newton. Can you think of anybody else that... Because the reason I say this is Da Vinci did so much in so many spheres. I mean, he had this conflagration of art and science, and that in itself was very, very special. So who else would you put in that creative intellectual space, Jackie, off the top?
Oh, well, I can't think of anybody else who had such a wide spread of... Well, there's creativity and there's the inventions and there's the scientist in there, and but how inventive he was in terms of the span of it. There's no other person.
Can you think of anybody, and obviously you've seen a lot on film, Peter, but in terms of the genius that this man is, and that's why 500 Years of Genius is highly appropriate as a title. Anybody else that comes to mind?
Actually, no, it's difficult because you have to define creativity in so many different aspects. And I mean, in the filmmaking community, the most creative have been the Lumiere brothers, for example.
Yep, fair enough. But what we're talking about with Leonardo da Vinci, he was the following: an artist, an inventor, an engineer, a scientist, an anatomist, a sculptor, and an architect. Now, wow. Reel that off. Okay, so the discoveries, the breakthroughs, the drive of the man, I've got the deepest admiration, not just me, but I think the world. And regardless of who you believe has the greatest creative intellect, I put it to you that it's impossible not to be awestruck by just what Da Vinci tackled and achieved in 67 years. And we're going back to April 1452, the 15th of April that year, when he was born, and he lived till the 2nd of May, 1519. So his life is laid bare in one of the most astounding, embracing exhibitions that you're likely to see, and that's what we're talking about, Leonardo da Vinci, 500 Years of Genius. So something that's rather interesting in this exhibition is the terminology that they use. And at times it's not language. Most of the time it's highly accessible. There are a few things which need explanation. So if I use the term polymath, and I don't want you to look it up, Peter, do you know immediately what I mean by the word polymath?
Multiple interests and activities?
Well done. Well done. I dare say a lot of people would know that, and it's not a common usage word, right? So that's what he is referred to here as. And I mentioned already the conflagration, or the lack of separation between art and science, at least in his head, which allowed him to do all the things that he did. So that's just one of the terms The other one is what's the word they use when you've got Jackie, I remember I came to you and mentioned it to you at the exhibition, and none of us, you and Madeline and I, had not heard of that term. No, it wasn't codices. Codex. Yeah, codex, which are documents and things. So, in other words, language has changed over the years. So don't be put off by that, because it's very, very relatable. And there's a great deal on show. The centerpiece of it is this 4-story high gallery, and that charts the life's course of this man through a combination of surround video and drop-down screens. So this massive room, and it's about, I would imagine, Jackie, it's about a half an hour, something of that nature. That's how long the video runs for. And around it are a number of ante-rooms. And the most outstanding of those rooms takes a deep dive into the world's most famous painting, which is, of course, the Mona Lisa. And it outlines secrets about the work. You and I both stood in front of it, and we were saying, wow, did that happen? And it also looks at the picture from 5 perspectives. Now, so that's just one example of this ante-room. And in the same room are breathtaking life-size reproductions of Da Vinci's Florentine oil paintings in chronological order. Really bright, really vibrant, and I love the fact that we see them as they were represented by Da Vinci. The other element of this, in that same room, technology enables each of us to receive a highly accurate readout of their proportions. So how tall are you, how wide are your arms, and so forth, against another of Da Vinci's noted works, which is called Vitruvian Man. So you remember the Michael Jordan picture where he spreads his arms out, a very famous modern-day picture. Well, Vitruvian Man, of course, produced a long time before this. You spread your arms out, and in a matter of seconds, there's a readout in terms of your dimensions against the Vitruvian Man. Thought that was a lot of fun. So this is just one example of an ante-room. Above the 4-story high gallery, Jackie, there are evocative representations of 40 machines that Da Vinci invented, and they've been crafted by Italian artisans. Now, bear in mind that he's produced the drawings, and these Italian craftsmen have produced the machines that the drawings represented. There's some remarkable machines amongst them. Did you get the chance to see that or not?
Oh, look, I think I spent nearly an hour just up in that gallery. There's a short explanation on the wall of each one, and you can actually move these cranks and cogs and wheels to see how each invention actually worked. And, all sorts of things, from even, like a tank in the artillery. He had a lot of his interest was in war machinery, so cannons and tanks, which may not necessarily have been made at the time, but later on we saw very similar sort of machinery coming into play.
Well, there was a paddle boat, there was Archimedes' screw. One of the things I loved was the emergency bridge. Right? I mean,
I actually started building that. Yes, you can build one with the pieces on the floor there.
You can, and there's a life buoy. I thought, my golly, and diving and breathing equipment. There's
fins for your hands.
Fins for your hands. There's a machine that erects poles. Now, I mean, talk about being ahead of your time. Extraordinary. I just couldn't believe the genius. I keep coming back to that word because that is the word that best describes Leonardo da Vinci. And you've also got a technology that we talked about with Vitruvian Man, virtual reality. Did not we have a great deal of fun, Jackie?
Yeah, that was fun. Really good.
Yeah, it was.
So really good. So you're flying over Florence. You've got a bird's eye view. Yes. And your bird's eye view is through the virtual reality headset on your head, but you're lying on, what purports to be, the back of a bird, or you are a bird with your wingspan out.
You're flat.
And you move your body and flap the wings to, duck and dive and turn. Great fun, wasn't it?
Oh, it was through, and you fly over Renaissance Florence, so it's not Florence of today. and you sort of navigate your way through the historic cityscape. That's what you do. And then buildings, famous buildings are given names, right? So you feel...
Yep.
And again, it's a really good, fun experience. They haven't had that at the Lume before. I've not done that anywhere in the world. Have you? Have you done that?
No. I have not flown like a bird anywhere in the world.
Right. Well,
except on a plane.
On a plane. The other thing is that once you buy a ticket, you can unleash your creative self. There's an artist studio, which I didn't go into, but it's all set up with easels and materials, and you can create your own Da Vinci masterpiece. And another undoubted highlight, the original drawings from the master himself that have made their way to Australia for the first time, specifically for this showcase. I thought that's great. I mean, you're looking at something that was drawn by Leonardo da Vinci, and you think, oh my golly, because only the best exhibits, the best art galleries in the world are the ones that hold these things. So they obviously negotiated this for the exhibition, and it was wonderful to see something that was created.
Well, it's 4 pages from one of the codex.
From one of the codexes, yeah. Exactly. Now, I'm not sure whether maybe there were other things that I spent a couple of hours there. I'm not sure what time you left, Jackie, but I got there at about sort of soon after 11 o'clock. I think I spent more than 2 hours there, and I was still there, well, about 1:30 to 1:45, and I could easily have spent another hour or so there, because you even
Ditto with me, Alex. I was there about that time, and I could have stayed for another hour, I thought,
because there's so much to take in, and I like to read all the panels, and I've got to say that the panels themselves, the detail about Da Vinci, can be found in a series of really well-written, readily understandable descriptions on the panels alongside the exhibits. Now, sometimes you read those and they're very, very dry, or they're not particularly well-written. These have been marvellously created, I reckon. The wording is really great. That's and we're journos, and I can honestly say that. Did you think similarly in terms of the way?
Oh, absolutely excellent.
Yeah.
And, not too detailed, but detailed enough to give you plenty of information that you wouldn't have known about either Da Vinci himself or the objects that you're looking at or testing out. Yep, yeah, excellent.
Exactly. And look, it's a really exhilarating, as you said initially, immersive experience, superbly constructed and executed. I would urge you to participate in this experience. I mean, that's what it is. It's not... You don't just stand there and look at things. You can get involved, which is what I loved about it. And the other thing is, did you have a look at the exhibition shop, Jackie? I was like a kid in a toy shop. I thought it was fabulous. Did you stop and...
I didn't stop because I felt the pressure of time by then. I'd been there so long. But I've had exactly the same thought. I would have liked to have, taken my time to exit through the gift shop.
Well, I spoke to the person who's responsible, and there's not only a manager, but somebody who they create material just for this exhibition.
They have for previous ones at the Lume
as well. Yeah. So in other words, it's part of the experience. And there's also a cafe there, and you can eat, and and there's bathrooms, of course, too. It's a wonderfully conceived... The whole idea of Lume really blows your mind, and they've done some great shows in the past. We've seen Monet. Who was the other one that I've gone blank on?
Van Gogh.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's brilliant. It really is superb. And if you want to go along, you can go to the lumemelbourne.com and /Leonardo-Vinci. So www.thelumemelbourne.com/Leonardo-Vinci. To give you an idea of pricing, which I think is important that people know, adults are $49.90, concessions and seniors are $39.90, and children and students, you've got to have a student card right up to university if you want, at $29.90. So basically $30, $40 and $50. If you go as a family, and that we're talking 2 adults and 3 children aged between 5 and 12. Under 5, it's free. But 2 adults, 3 kids, 5 and 12. A family ticket is $129.90, so let's make that $130. Now, if you go to see a show, Jackie, not even at times a great ticket, but a ticket to one of the shows, which lasts also for a couple of hours, that alone will cost you at least $130. This is a family ticket for $130. I should add, though, and this is very important, if you want to experience the flyover, the virtual flyover Florence, that's an extra $19.90. So add $20 to that. That's per person. So, again, and the pricing in the when you exit the theatre or the space rather in the exhibition shop, look, you can buy a trinket or you can buy a book, whatever you want, and prices vary again. You can buy something for, I think, $10, or you can buy something for over $100. Depends on what you want to do, and there's all sorts. I looked at some fabulous books, quite frankly, that, every one of Da Vinci's works. I didn't buy any, but it was beautiful, really beautiful.
But it's quite nice quality.
The quality
items, souvenirs there. It's not, your trashy $2.
It's not
shop stuff.
I had fun. You probably didn't stop and see this. They've also had fun with it. A lot of the stuff is really, it's high quality, whatever you're getting, whether it's a magnet or a stick pin or whatever. They've also produced some T-shirts, Jackie, and the Mona Lisa with bubble gum coming out of her mouth, just as a bit of fun. And I like the fact that whilst it's all very, they've thought of everything, and I admired that. It was pink bubble gum, so I said, well, hang on, do you have a male and a female version? They laughed when I asked them that. These days, everything's unisex, of course, isn't it? So, look, I couldn't rave more about this. I love what they do at the Lume. I always look forward to the next exhibition, and, this is world class, isn't it?
Look, I would just wrap up by saying you did mention family ticket there, so you can take children as young as anything. Any child 3 or 4 or 5 years old will really gain something from the experience here, because it is so immersive. It's all around them. They'll never have seen or felt anything like this before, no matter how much TV or whatever they might have watched. It's a really new experience for them. And yet it's not just a kiddie or family experience. It really, I can imagine, I can't think of a demographic that wouldn't go along to enjoy this. Grandparents with grandchildren, young couples, whoever. There isn't a person who couldn't gain, great pleasure from this experience.
What I was going to say, having seen at least one of the previous ones, the material on the walls, the interactive video, or the video rather on the walls that is surround video and the drop-down screens, I thought, again, it's very difficult because there was only so many works that were like artworks and so forth here for Da Vinci. Now, some of it was cartoonish, wasn't it? There were some representations. I personally preferred the previous one that I saw because it was more painting based and there was more stuff on the floor. And that's what the kids reacted to. And what you were talking about, Jackie, it's interesting. My then 1-year-old granddaughter was totally mesmerized when she came along to the first exhibition. She's now 2, but she loved it. She was trying to, it's like jumping on shadows, right? She was doing all of this and giggling and giggling and so on. I don't think this,
like a kitten with a laser light, Alex.
Perfect example, beautiful. But I don't think this one had as much, and I preferred the actual visual representations of the previous one to this one, because I don't think there was as much material. Obviously, there's sketches and drawings, but it's not the same as the sort of artwork, if you like, that Monet or whatever. The sheer.
It has a much greater intellectual component too.
This one,
due to the science and the technology, and the invention.
But in terms of video, that doesn't necessarily lend itself to video in the same way that other artists do. So
perhaps, but then this one had the the scale models upstairs that they could actually touch and feel and play with. So
exactly. But what I'm thinking of is, I reckon what's of greatest appeal to a youngster is the visual element, and not even as much as they might be interested in the wooden sculptures and so forth. I don't think they'd be as interested in that as, what do they watch on TV? They watch shows that move, the cartoonish type shows. That's the thing.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you. You're talking about a 1-year-old perhaps, but I think a 4 or 5-year-old would have much more fun with the upstairs section here.
Really? Okay. Well, maybe. So look, it's Peter, would you ever? You don't contemplate anything other than darkened cinemas, but would you ever contemplate going to something like this? Would this interest you or not?
Not particularly. I've been so busy with the French Film Festival.
No, but forget about busy. You would never go to it. Like, okay, you go to Germany. You wouldn't go to an exhibition.
I'd go to a cinema.
So but honestly, you would never go and.
It doesn't have to, Alex.
No. I'm okay. Would you go to the Louvre? No. I don't. I'm not trying to say anything by this, but I mean, you would not go to the Louvre. That doesn't really. It's not your thing.
I'm not a great advocate for artwork. I must admit. I've been to the National Gallery a number of times, and it doesn't quite excite me.
Okay, no, that's good. That's interesting. Okay, well, look, folks, please. It's called Leonardo da Vinci, 500 Years of Genius, and I don't have a closing date. I know it's on for at least a few months, but don't wait. I mean, get along, talk to friends about it. I think what you've got here is an exhibition that you will recommend to other people. That's also, a sign that it works particularly well, Jack. Anything else you wanted to add about this exhibition?
I saw that ticketing is open until into June, and I think that possibly after that it could easily be extended. But, Easter's coming up, and after that the school holidays, so that's the opportunity. For other people who don't want to take children out of those times would be good. You would get more space to yourself.
I'm thinking how much time would have gone into putting this together? I've got no idea. I haven't spoken.
Years, over years.
I can't imagine how much to curate something like this. What an enormous undertaking, and to pull it off the way that they have. So bravo to all concerned, and please go along and see Leonardo da Vinci, 500 Years of Genius at the Lume inside the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. There's parking at DFO, right? There's parking there. It's not cheap. Just be aware of that. I don't remember exactly how much it is, Jackie, but it's
you get discounted parking with your Lume ticket.
With your Lume ticket, yep, fair enough. And these days, parking anywhere near town is not inexpensive. Having said that, catch a train. That's true. Public train. Yeah, good idea. All right, we're on JAir 88 FM. You're speaking to Jackie Hammerton, or Jackie Hammerton is speaking to us. Peter Krauss and myself, Alex First. And if you want to become a member of JAir, $54 a year, go to j-air.com.au, j-air.com.au, and hand over your hard-earned, just $54, and we'd love you to be part of the community. Otherwise, just sort of listen in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, hopefully get some entertainment into you and some intellect at the same time. Let's get on to some of the movies that are on in town, and I want to start with Cabrini, and I'll tell you why I want to start with Cabrini. In terms of hospitals, I suppose the Cabrini Hospital in Malvern is the one that I'm most familiar with in Melbourne. And it's always been a sort of talking point. It hasn't been next door to me, but it's always been highly regarded. If you think of hospitals, Jackie, I can't think of one that's more prominent other than, I presume, the Royal Melbourne and the Royal Children's. But other than that, I think Cabrini is the one that stands out in my mind. What about you?
Well, for out in the suburbs, perhaps, the city ones are.
Sure. And Peter, hospital-wise, Cabrini, yeah?
Yes, I'm very familiar with Cabrini. My mother was in there for a long time.
Oh, I see. Well, look, this movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's rated M. It's based on fact. And it's the story of the Italian-American nun called Frances Xavier Cabrini, as told. It's based on fact. I keep saying that because some of what she achieves, again, if we think about Leonardo da Vinci, what this woman has achieved is truly remarkable. And she's nothing if not persistent. She's determined, and she's disruptive and inspirational. She was a sickly child, had lung issues, and given a short life expectancy. And yet, despite her severe breathing issues, she took to her mission in life, that is, with well, what should I call it, Jackie? Religious zeal? Am I allowed to say that?
Absolutely.
Well, she wanted to tackle global poverty and homelessness. And to that end, although she was practicing in Italy, Mother Cabrini implored no less a figure than the Pope to help her address the poverty explosion in China. And specifically, she had her eyes on Chinese children. She had stated her case in writing no less than 11 times, and she'd been knocked back on every occasion. Now, she then decided, okay, well, they invited her to Rome, and she again was told, well, bad luck, Charlie. She insisted on fronting the pontiff, and this is fronting him literally directly. She sort of worked away, and in one meeting, she finally received the approval she sought on one proviso, that she start her mission in New York City, not in China. So, with nothing to her name, she and 5 nuns who worked under her packed their bags and landed in the most godforsaken place in the Big Apple, which is named 5 Points. And at the time, we're talking 1889, it was so disease-riddled, so downtrodden and dangerous that police wouldn't even venture there. And if I look at the facts around this, between 1889 and 1910, more than 2 million Italians emigrated to the United States. And they were desperately poor, most of them. Often they were illiterate, almost never spoke English. And many Americans considered these Italians to be of inferior intelligence as a result of all of what I've just spoken about, only fit for manual labour and a threat to the very fabric of the country. It's ironic seeing so many countries in the world today recognise that what makes the countries great is their diversity. Anyway, having said all of that, what we see is the odds heavily stacked against Mother Cabrini every step along the way. And the impediments really do just keep on coming. Nevertheless, with her back against the wall, she inevitably finds a way. And what shines through is her dogged work ethic and her indomitable and entrepreneurial spirit. When she arrives in America, it's not as if the welcome mats turned out for her or for her wards. She immediately encounters blatant racism and sexism. So, for example, the Archbishop, played by David Morse, is against her. The Mayor, John Lithgow plays him, wants nothing to do with her, and on it goes. But she simply will not take no for an answer. And the first step is establishing an orphanage. But before this is over, creating a new cutting-edge hospital is also in her sights. So the hospital was just was happenstance. It really was about the orphanage. And again, with the hospital comes yet more obstacles, and this time ones that could break her for good. So it really is a compelling immigrant story. That is Cabrini. And I really appreciated the performances. I thought very, very good. The Italian act, I mean, it's intended to be reverential. Let's be honest. Francis Cabrini, Xavier Cabrini is indeed painted as a saint, which she became. The production values, though, are really strong. And the Italian actress called Cristina Del Anna is really powerful and natural in the lead. She commands attention in the way she goes about her business as Mother Cabrini. Overall, notwithstanding the odd exception, the representation of the men she encounters is decidedly ugly. And they're painted as bigoted and bombastic. And I suppose I was thinking about it in old-fashioned theatrical terms. You're left wanting to boo and hiss when the majority of them take to the stage, right? So the writer, Rod Barr, the director, Alejandro Monteverdi, who worked together on Sound of Freedom, another movie, have made it that way, right? They've wanted to get us involved. So foremost amongst these hard-headed men is the mayor, who John Lithgow realises is self-serving and downright nasty, really. And David Morse plays the Archbishop, somewhat more understanding, but on occasions deeply combative, very much so, and beholden to the mayor. And the real negative picture of the men starts with Mother Cabrini's arrival at the Vatican when she confronts the Pope's right-hand man. He's the one who says aloud that there's never been an independent order of missionary women. So he's inferring, well, why would you start, right? Why should you be the first one? And look, it's a conventional narrative structure in the movie. It's chronological, it's episodic, but it's easy to follow as a result. And Mother Cabrini lurches from crisis to crisis in trying to achieve the seemingly impossible. Thought that the period detail in the movie, including the sets and the costuming, were impressive. And I also am praiseworthy of the lighting and the sound. It really did open my eyes, Cabrini, to the remarkable breakthroughs made by the woman who became the patron saint of immigrants. How appropriate that was. What did you think, Jackie, of Cabrini?
Oh, actually watched this twice because the first time I found it a little grim. As you say, the setting, it wasn't exactly a paradise where she was working, and I did find it grim and bleak and dark in visually as well as what the story was about. So I watched it a second time and saw a lot more in it. So, there you go. That was just the way I took it. I liked the language of it. Some of it was really, I noted a couple of phrases, like she was called a puffed up Dago nun, and that kind of adds a little bit of, character in there of what she was dealing with. She's certainly a remarkable person. And even if they did paint her as a saint, I couldn't see any other way that you could, what else would you bring into it? She certainly was what she was doing. And feisty lady, good match for the powerful men.
Yeah.
Who were determined to put her down and not acknowledge anything that she had a vision of or a desire to do, or give her any credit for, her inner strength and determination. And she would use phrases like, you need to think, in a womanly way, without having to do the power struggle. What kind of world do we want? She would say to these men of religion who couldn't contemplate helping homeless children on the streets because they happened to be Italian immigrants. I also liked the way that it was a newspaper editorial that, broke open the crack, if you like, to actually start pulling off some of her achievements. And I saw that as an early an early way that we have a GoFundMe page today. He really
it's an investigation.
Started that off with editorial
journalism. It really was investigative journalism.
Well, it was. I think also it was the way it was written too. Not only did he walk around the streets, but he put the whole guilt trip on his readers. Why are you ignoring, this whole, society within New York? Why are they not as human and deserving as any of us? And it was beautifully put together like that.
I tell you, the intelligence of the woman is what stood out for me. She really knew how to weave an argument in a most convincing manner. But the misogynism that she faced, Jeff, it was appalling. Absolutely
disgusting.
Appalling. Yeah, you couldn't get away from it. And look, as I say, I know it was funded in such a way that it was always going to be reverential. And sometimes a movie like that could be really twee, but this wasn't. What did you think, Peter?
Well, okay, at last. Look, I approached this film with trepidation because I knew the director, Alejandro Monteverdi, was responsible for that dreadful exploitative film, The Sound of Freedom. So I was already quite concerned about what he was going to make out of this woman's story. And I must say it certainly turned out a little bit better than I expected, even though it is, for me, and you say this often, but you didn't this time, Alex, this film was far too long. It went for 140 minutes, and the first third of the film was too repetitive, but it missed out so much on her backstory. I didn't really understand what drove her and what made her to be the driven person that she was. And of course, later in the film, we get to see lots of events and incidents which are pretty well represented, but I missed the motivation factors behind her character, or behind Cabrini. I also saw that they spent a huge amount of money on the sets and on locations and so on the back of obviously Sound of Freedom being so spectacularly successful, even though it was a dud film. So again, they paid attention to detail, but I think they overdid it. I think they could have spent a bit more time on nuancing the script and on developing the other characters. In fact, they created an artificial one completely, because John Lithgow, his character as the mayor or whatever, did not exist. There was no such person in real life, which made me wonder, I wish they had made a documentary about Cabrini rather than making this film. Still, the film is that religious, reverential sort of approach to someone in history that deserves some recognition. So overall, it turned out a bit better than I expected it to be, despite my initial trepidation. So it's worth a look, but I wasn't as overly impressed as both of you were.
I thought it was intriguing. I was really intrigued by just what she achieved. And again, it's interesting that we're speaking about Cabrini on the back of the Leonardo da Vinci exhibition, because it's so remarkable what individuals can put themselves through and come out with at the other end in what is a finite period of time. And, you know, even though it might seem like a long time, 60, 70 years, I mean, we're all of an age where we're saying, my golly, where have the years gone? And you sort of, I think you're humbled in the presence of people like that, and movies like this highlight that. And I got pretty excited about what she managed to achieve. I'm going to be probably the high mark on this one. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. Cabrini, which runs for 2 hours and 20 minutes. What about you, Jackie?
Well, I wasn't raving about it, I might say, Peter, and I just want to very briefly let Peter know why I thought she had that drive inside her. First of all, that was the kind of person she was. I mean, we have our personalities, and she was a driven woman. But I thought it was very briefly explained by her coming through the illness. Yes. And as she was recovering from that, you could see that she had overheard, what was it, that she would never walk again or something?
She was going to be bed. Jackie was.
Yes, and she had that determination that you could see her in her face. She was saying, well, oh, God, I'm not going to, that's not going to happen to me. And from there on, she became this woman of steel, almost, if you like. I like the film Cabrini, 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. And Peter, are you going to pass it or not?
Actually, I am. Isn't that interesting, Jackie? Because I'm giving it the same mark as you for different reasons. 6 out of 10.
I'm a harsh marker, Peter.
Usually, Jackie, you either give something a 10 or a 2, right? So
True.
Yeah, you've gone right, literally in the middle, right? 10 or 2. The middle point is 6. Well done.
And I might also say that I think, Peter, there is room for a doco on this woman and the situation surrounding it, the whole New York immigrant thing, very much based on her. There's room for that as well as this film.
Has there not been one? Has there not been one?
No.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Well, you'd know.
Peter would know.
Yes.
Well, hang on, Peter, you go back to 1322, so you'd know.
Yes, 22 past 1, that's correct, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let us move on, JR, 88 FM, to talk about Love Lies Bleeding. What a movie. Oh, my golly. MA rated 105 minutes. And if you think Thelma and Louise, which was one of my favourite films, and you step it up several notches, you may get to Love Lies Bleeding. It's seriously wild and dangerous ride. And we're talking about 1989. A character called Lou, played by Kristen Stewart, is surly. She's this gay gym manager in New Mexico who is trying to quit smoking. And into her facility, which is located in a rather rough neighbourhood, walks a bisexual bodybuilder called Jackie, played by Katie O'Brien. And Jackie turns Lou's head. An incident outside the gym really precipitates the start of a relationship between the two women. And it turns out that Jackie has a sight set on a bodybuilding competition in Las Vegas. She's already naturally muscled up from working out. But Lou introduces Jackie to anabolic steroids. Jackie, landed a job as a waitress at a bar attached to a rifle range operated by a very shady character called Lou Sr., played by Ed Harris. And unbeknown to her at the time, Lou Sr. is Lou's estranged father. And I should say that Lou also hasn't seen her mother for 12 years. But there's a great deal more to this story, Love Lies Bleeding. And Lou is protective of a young mother called Beth, who has a turbulent home life with her husband, JJ, role filled by Dave Franco, who is really a nasty piece of work in this one. An episode between JJ and Beth precipitates a catastrophic chain of events. It's been co-written by Weronika Tovalaska and co-written by a British director called Rose Glass. who was responsible for Saint Maud. This, I would say, it crosses genres. I mean, it's very dark, it's gritty, it's steamy, it's dramatic. It's a revenge thriller which has got love at its core. I found the screenplay compelling. I thought its execution was solid, but for the second to last scene, there's a fantasy element there. And look, I just thought it got the better of them, got the better of the filmmakers. It wasn't necessary. I mean, I love the fact that I had no idea where and when the next twist would come, though, within Love Lies Bleeding. And as she has a positive habit of doing, Kristen Stewart throws herself headlong into the lead role. She's never minded the heavy lifting, and again, so it is here. I mean, Lou's lived a lot in her 30-odd years and has had it far from easy. And she's trying desperately to free herself from her past, and inevitably, though, it catches up with her. As for Jackie, she gets in way over her head, and then she finds herself manipulated. Very impressive, I thought, Katie O'Brien. It shows she can kick some serious butt and yet expresses vulnerability. And at first blush, Ed Harris is barely recognisable as a man who uses violence as a badge of honour. And, gee, Dave Franco, doesn't he do Two-Faced with ease? Cinematographer is Ben Fordsman. He captures the seedy nature of the offering, which is aided by the soundscape from Clint Mansell. Crime and passion, well, they fit hand in glove. It's an offering that got me excited, notwithstanding that reservation I had with the second to last scene. But other than that, it's really quite a compelling movie. Love Lies Bleeding, Peter.
It is. Rose Glass did such a great job with that stylish horror film, Saint Maud. And I was looking forward to her next film, and I'm so glad that she directed Love Lies Bleeding, because she has injected a real surreal aspect to this 80s trope film. And in fact, she's even channeling David Lynch and Dario Argento in some of her scenes. This is a film from the get-go that is not to be taken too seriously. It is meant to be a somewhat wild ride, and it certainly is that. It was interesting to read that Katie O'Brien, who is the bodybuilder in the film, was a bodybuilder herself. And so she went to a casting and was selected for the role. And she does such an excellent job on steroids, amongst other things. But yes, Kristen Stewart is the one who really does a magnificent job of carrying the film.
Isn't she a great actor? I mean, it's interesting from Twilight and what she's done, and her choices are often, if you like, dangerous, but she seems to be able to pull it off. I've got the utmost admiration for the way that she goes about the business, Peter.
Absolutely. She does an excellent job. But you can see from the way it's shot from the outset with the reds and with the dystopian almost atmosphere that is attached to the film, that those surreal scenes that one of which you mentioned later in the film, fits in quite well in terms of the way where this film is going and how the narrative is constructed.
I disagree with that, Peter. That's what I was getting at. It just stood out like dog's proverbials, and I just didn't like it at all. I just thought it was unnecessary. It was really deeply distracting for me, that second last scene.
All right. Well, I totally disagree. I think it fitted in the narrative extremely well, right down to the way the film concludes. So I really liked it.
No, it's good stuff. Jackie, you?
I still wish to see it.
Ah, very good. Okay. Well, Peter, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really worthy film, and I mean, you didn't reference Thelma and Louise like I did. You can see the parallel there, though, can't you?
Yes, I mean, because there are two women in focus, and however, the storylines are somewhat different, I think.
Oh, indeed. It's MA rated 105, but it's very good reason for it to be MA rated too, I might say. But what would you give it?
Surprisingly enough, I gave it the same mark as you, 8 out of 10.
Oh, you're copying me now, Peter. That's it. You know, the greatest form of flattery. So clearly you're going to copy me and you'll come to every football match with me, the mighty fighting Essendon footy machine. Correct, Peter?
Sorry, I've just nodded off.
Yes, indeed. All right, we are moving on JR88 FM to talk about another movie which has just opened. And, I mean, okay, so if I ask you at this point of the year, what is your favourite film thus far, Peter? What would you say?
I don't want to answer that question at all. It's far too early.
What you don't have? You haven't. It's the 17th of March, right? Of the movies you've seen this year, you can't tell me the one that you've enjoyed the most. What are you giving away here?
I've enjoyed a number of films, but there's not one that really stands out for me at this stage.
Okay. What about you, Jackie? Anything that?
All of Us Strangers.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I remember you talked glowingly about that film. So yes, it's an interesting exercise just every now and again to check in and so forth. Now I've gone blank on what we're about to talk about. What are we about to talk about?
How to have sex.
Of course.
Yes.
How can I have gone blank on how to have sex? Right. It's an evocative title to say the least, and we've had a lot of fun with it off air, and I feel like we've been extremely childlike.
Have we?
Would you not say that?
I haven't had a lot of fun with it off air.
No, me either.
It must have been you two blokes doing it all.
So it's only a male thing, is it, Jackie?
Well, I haven't been involved in that. There you go.
You're all at sea. I get it. Okay. Well, you know what can I do? I can only tell it.
I'm going to get a bit hoity-toity because I don't think the title of the film is. I don't like the title of the film.
No,
I think it's I think it's totally wrong with the content of the film.
Yeah, look, I would have preferred to have called it Consent. That simple title, but yeah, it certainly draws you in, but it draws you in probably for the wrong reasons. It's MA rated. It's a 91-minute movie, and look, consent is the issue at the core of what is a coming-of-age drama, and it's a film that I reckon needs to be seen by teenagers, their parents, and grandparents, because all seems to be going as it does when youngsters let their hair down until a line is crossed. And after that, there is no coming back. You got 3 16-year-old British girls, one called Tara, a second called Sky, and a third M. And they take a trip to a Greek party resort called Malia, Malia. Tara is the only one amongst the trio who's a virgin. And no pun intended, she wants to break her duck. All 3 let their hair down. They swim, they smoke, they drink to excess, they go clubbing, and they don't reveal their real age. M hooks up with another girl called Paige. Sky hangs about with intent, and Tara hits it off with a guy who's all but touching distance away, basically staying on a neighbouring hotel balcony, and the hotels are next door to one another, and you can see one another across the balcony. There's no barriers between them. And he is nicknamed Badger. First appearances paint him as rougher than he turns out to be. And like the girls, he too drinks too much, he parties hard, but remains respectful until he participates in a sexually charged public game that does not impress Tara. Badger is on the island, the party island of Malia, with a childhood mate called Paddy, and they live in the same street back home, and their mothers are best mates, best friends. Paddy takes advantage of a vulnerable Tara, after which, understandably, her demeanour changes, and her withdrawn nature hides a welter of emotions as what goes down plays out over and over in her head. And yet there is more in store. Meanwhile, unaware of the real circumstances, Sky simply plays up the fact that Tara is no longer a virgin. M, on the other hand, comes to understand the magnitude of what happened to Tara on Malia. And what we see in How to Have Sex has all the appearance of, to me, everyday reality. Yet I can't countenance the fact that 3 16-year-old girls are allowed to travel on their own to a party island. I mean, really? I kept reflecting on schoolies on the Gold Coast, where I imagine the teens would be at least a year or two older, and that causes enough trouble, right? Nevertheless, the same thing could quite conceivably happen, whether it's a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old or 18-year-old, as what occurs with Tara. And of course, that's the whole point of this movie. The first-time filmmaker is Molly Manning Walker. She makes a significant impression with a well-considered screenplay and direction. She has deliberately built elements of ambiguity into the script, and it was inspired actually by reminiscences of a rite of passage trip that she took to a Mediterranean party resort when the sexual pressure was tangible. So the actors, well, Mia McKenna-Bruce transitions Tara well from loud and carefree to circumspect and troubled. Lara Peake paints a less than sympathetic portrait of Skye, and Enya Lewis appears far more empathetic as M. Sean Thomas, well, he brings layers to Badger, and Samuel Bottomley at best showcases narcissism and entitlement as Paddy, the one who takes advantage of Tara. The director of photography, Nicholas Canaccioni, readily paints a raucous and salacious environment. The composer, James Jacobs' score, I thought, added authenticity. It's a distressing watch, make no mistake about it, How to Have Sex, but it's got a really important story to tell, and I think it tells it very well. What did you think, Peter?
I agree with you. It's interesting to note Molly Manning Walker's first feature film, as you said, was based on some of her own experiences.
Yeah.
And it is a salutary tale about consent. I mean, it's so interesting to note that she wanted that title, How to Have Sex, because she wanted to draw in young people to think that they're seeing another sex comedy or another film which just deals with dalliances and romances and so on, because that is the group that she was entirely trying to convince to understand that the issue of consent and of celebrating end of schooling and all that sort of thing by having untrammeled sex or whatever the case might be is not necessarily the wisest and best thing to do. And so I like that morality issue that is explored in the film without hitting you over the head with it. The lead actress too, Mia McKenna-Bruce, is so superb and won, in fact, a Best Debut Performance at the BAFTAs or British Independent Film Awards. And the film itself was a winner at Cannes for A Certain Regard. I think it's a film that hits a nerve, and I think does it really well and portrays the whole issue of young people and letting go and having sex willy-nilly without necessarily thinking about the consequences is very well explored in this film. So I was very impressed by it.
I mean, I found it deeply distressing, and Jackie, you and I have both got girls, and it's very, very,
I am actually female too myself.
Of course, but I'm just saying that when, yes, thank you very much for letting me know. Gee, I wondered whether there was something about you I wasn't aware of. So
I'm saying I have had my, my experience as female. I can see where this film is, as well as in relation to my daughter.
Hang on. Do you remember back that far? I mean, you're not quite as old as Peter, who was, what, 13?
No, not the 1300s, no.
No, not quite as old, but still. Okay, well, that's good. So the relics past have come back to haunt you. I get it. Okay, so all joking aside, though, I mean, the longer this went, the more I thought surely they're not going to let him get away with it, kind of thing. I just found it incredibly troubling. What about you, Jackie?
Well, I didn't want him to get away with it either. I did want a bit more of an obvious morality tale here at the end. And that's my main beef with the film.
Really?
Yes.
I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you about...
I would like the young guys who think that kind of behaviour is okay to be a bit slapped around the...
Yes, yeah. but sorry, I take issue with it from the point of view that was the whole point. That that's what makes you so viciously angry that men think they can get away with it, right? I mean, I thought that was the whole point of the movie.
Well, I don't see why the movie couldn't wrap up with some kind of, consequences here.
I mean,
I really wanted consequences. I did.
But the reality, but that's the point, that there weren't. That was the whole thing, and it's a...
I understand that, but that doesn't mean I...
No, but it's
my take on it.
It's a salutary lesson. What did you think about that, Peter? Just that whole point of discussion we're having now.
I think the audience can take away the morality lessons very easily.
This is 17-year-old boys who are watching a film called How to Have Sex, Peter.
I think they will get it, that there are real issues here.
Really?
You don't have to hit people over the head with a message to give them a message.
I think in this case, well, I wanted them to be. Obviously, we're going to differ on that. I thought it was really a film in two parts. And I thought the first part was, just, I thought the teenagers who were watching this, who, as we're saying, are probably the main audience for this film, would have really got into the vibe of the alcohol and the drugs and the music and the dancing and the 3 a.m. and the vomiting and the let's do it again tomorrow. I mean, because they've been there and done that. And that's, that's fun. Well, maybe many of us have been there and done that. And then, of course, it turns and it becomes quite introspective, and we're seeing it much more from the point of view of the girls and what's gone wrong. But it wasn't a pleasant watch for me, this film.
Did you think it was a good film or not?
I'm torn.
Okay. No, that's fair enough.
I certainly think it had. I certainly think it has a place.
Yes.
But I'm not sure that I quite agreed with the way it was done.
Mm-hmm. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. How to Have Sex, rated MA, 91 minutes. Peter?
Definitely 8 out of 10 from me.
Jackie?
6 out of 10 from me.
Folks, thank you very much indeed. Jackie, always a pleasure. Peter, delightful. The fact that you're still standing and you're 700 years old, really, it astounds me. You and Da Vinci, right, in the same breath. With that, we will see you all next week on First on Film and Entertainment.